to me, I always believe the victim first.
But isn't that against our justice system? Because our justice
Yeah.
system says everyone's it says you're not guilty until proven. But then that's opposite against what you said, no?
Yeah, it's true. Like at first, I'm
Yeah.
not.
No,
like
no,
at
no.
first,
I understand.
because like it is a hard situation.
Yeah.
Because I always say that I believe the victim first because once the truth is out, and even if the victim lied,
Yeah.
I feel more or less guilty for not believing the victim because I was once a victim.
Like, for example, let's go to Afghanistan right now. The U.S. just withdrawn, a few months ago. Right now, I believe women they just got banned from basically attending school now.
I have a special guest on. What is your name?
Mason.
My name is Judah Ramos.
Mighty.
Well, it's good to have you on. Today's subject is going to be, do you think that there is a bias or a controversy between men and women?
Absolutely. I believe entirely that, as you said, there's a controversy that men and women, especially in recent years, have essentially been pitted to against each other by the media and by the system, government systems, media, whatnot.
I guess it really depends on situations, but I do feel like there is a bias, complications between those two genders. Yeah, I do.
Yes, for the most part, I will have to say yes. There is a bias. Now, I believe it varies from which part of the world you are in. For example, based on my opinion, in the West, we tend to, I wouldn't say ideal, but sort of the view on women is that they need more protection. I don't know exactly how to word it, but it's more of women are peaceful, they're all this, they're all that, and a lot of males in Western society tend to have a disadvantage, especially in court, versus I go to somewhere like, I don't know, Southeast Asia, where it's significantly better to be a guy. I can say that because a lot of women there aren't really treated that well. So yes, I will have to say there is a big bias between men and women. It just depends on where you're from, which country you live in, which part of the world, what's the religion there, what's the beliefs, etc.
Well, what do you mean by that? In what way?
The courts and take a look at social media and TikTok. I do completely agree with that equality and whatnot, that women and men are equal, that feminism is good, but there are some people who've sort of taken it to another level, and you get people online I can't think of any specific sort of cases, but I do know that you'll see influencers online promoting the sort of a narration that it's one versus the other. You even have guys online with this whole red pill philosophy, basically saying that men are better than women, and then you have these women online saying okay, men are all trash, men bad, and you should screw them over, basically. And that's been taken into the legal system because there's cases of that happening, really, where that's a problem. And both ideologies there are a bit of an issue that's being pushed forward, and that I don't understand why we haven't sort of addressed this more.
You think?
So between the two, who do you think society favors more? We're specifically just talking about men and male and female here, and other genders. Who do you think it favors more?
I feel I wouldn't say the word favors. It's more who gets to pay more and who gets to be the boss more type of stuff. So example, women back then, they have to be housewives all the time. They can't work, but the guy has to be the one who's the boss of the house and who pays the bills and provide supports for the family. Technically they get to have a job, but the woman has to stay home.
Where do you think that bias comes from? Social media or past influences or what?
The media does have a big role to play in it. But it could also stem from just cultural beliefs. Like, for example, let's go to Afghanistan right now. The U.S. just withdrawn, a few months ago. Right now, I believe women are, well, they just got banned from basically attending school now. So it could also be from religion. Like, Afghanistan is sort of a state that is heavily relied on and influenced by religion. There are other places like, let's talk about the West, where social media for the most part has a part to play in it. But again, it stems from where you are from, right? It's in somewhere in a less developed country where there isn't much social media or the internet actually, it will probably just be mostly religious beliefs and cultural aspects to influence that said bias.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that, like in courts, for example, you brought up before, do you think that there are certain people who are favored more in court because of their gender?
Yes, I think that probably the people who are favored the most in court are specifically, I'd say, white women in particular, are like sort of like your perfect angels in court who win every battle, and that's an unfortunate side effect. Well,
So like Karens or
kinda actually, yeah. Like I would say, Karen-like individuals actually happen to like win a lot of cases in courts. That's why you see so many entitled people out there who really just act like they can do whatever they want, because in a lot of cases they can.
where do you think would be the best place and worst place for like not segregation but like a divide between men and women?
Where do I think there is a best place or a worst place? I have to say the Scandinavian countries do a much better job of having a very good place for both sexes and genders. The worst places are usually in places that are that aren't developed as much. For example, any of the 5 low countries on the UN's list of development. An example, Somalia. Like, I don't think that's a good place for both of them, but it's even worse for women in my opinion. Yeah, so I'd say it's mostly the countries that are absolutely torn apart, that are not in a stable condition, that tend to be the worst places for either sexes. And it's usually the Scandinavian countries that tend to have a better like segregation, but in other words, it like 2 sexes can live in the same area and not have big protests and big riots and big segregation between the 2.
And we can both agree that that's changed now, right?
Yes, I do agree that that's changed.
So then, instead of favor, what word would you use instead? Because we said like one gender gets favored over the other, right?
Mm-hmm.
What word would you switch that with?
I would say more opportunities.
More opportunities.
Yes.
And do you think males get more opportunities than females?
Do you think that, so if there was no division, if there was like a perfect like utopia, there were no divisions between men and women, do you think that would be a good thing or a bad thing?
I'd say in a perfect world, that would be... There are pros and cons to everything. For the most part, although it will solve a lot of problems that this world sees, I don't think that it's just gonna be all perfect, because whenever a problem is destroyed or is conquered, there's always another problem that arises. Now, let's say there were absolutely no differences between them, no segregation at all. I feel like there would be some other problem that would sort of arise. Just like everything. I don't know. For example, you're a kid. You're in school. That's your first thing to conquer. Second thing, you go to middle school. Oh, I completed that. What else is next? Oh, high school. Now I gotta worry about all this. You could get your, I don't know, high school diploma. You graduate high school. Then, oh, everything's great. I just solved that problem. Oh, now I gotta go to college. Now I gotta work my own job. Now I gotta do this and that. Even in a perfect world, there will always be some form of issue that will arise. No matter how many problems you conquer, there will always be something there to replace it. That's just my opinion.
So do you think that's because they are women that they get away with it, or because they just like are like entitled assholes?
I don't think it's because they're women. I think it's because of Western society. Like, we got a lot of good here and a lot of bad here, but, like, I personally think that it's due to, like, media. Like, you get your images, you look in any media, and you have, like, go into, like, even hell, like, go a couple decades back, and you get your image of, like, a home somewhere, and you got your, like, deadbeat dad with the wife beater who beats his wife every night and is an alcoholic, and the wife who's running away. Generally, there's, like, images, and you see that a lot in media. There's images of, like, sort of stereotypes that get pushed out, and a lot of people end up sort of believing those to the point where they're kind of manifested into reality.
Divorce cases and other things. For example, in divorces, the jury and the judge tend to give a sentence that favors more the female than the male. Now, is that still taking into the, like, let's look at it not just in job opportunities, but let's look at it like an overall perspective, which is a very big thing, right?
Yeah.
And do you still think it's still lean towards more male than female?
Ooh, that's a good question. I guess when it comes to courts, taking custody of their child, I feel like I do some scenes perspective that the woman gets the case of the child more than the man. Because I guess the judge decided that, because the mom is the one who gave birth to the child, so the mom gets a bigger chance to get the child more than the dad.
Isn't that unfair and biased?
I think it's just, I guess it is unfair when it comes, when you see that, the mom doesn't treat the child good, but somehow she gets the case of the child, but not the dad. To me, that's unfair.
Well, do you think that those stereotypes are something that, like, there can be something said for them, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are some cases where things like that are true. Like, I don't think people would be, like, other than ridiculous stereotypes that are obviously jokes, like, I don't think that they would exist unless there was something to base them off of, even if they're completely, like, untrue.
Yeah. Do you think that, just jumping back to the whole court thing, do you think that courts would favor women as opposed to men when giving custody of children?
Absolutely. Generally, women are seen more, especially, and if you look at it from court, like, even regardless of financial situation or whatnot, women are sort of seen as your caretakers by the court who are going to be better for the child, and the father tends to be seen as potentially abusive or predatory even.
Do you think, skipping to another topic, do you think that, just going back to the whole court thing, women are favored in court when getting custody of children?
Do I think women are favored in court? Yeah, I'm gonna have to say yes. I was previously talking with a friend of mine who, I think he just listed a fact about women having a 90% chance or so that they are to receive custody of the child, no matter what the statistics are. Like, I have a coworker, let's call him Dave, okay? Dave is around 40 years old. He married someone, ended up getting divorced with her, and for some reason, out of all these, I'm just listing my side. I never actually listened to the mother's side, but based on what he's telling me, she's a woman who wasn't born in the best conditions, wasn't raised exactly to be the best mother possible, has some substance and addiction issues with certain substances like drugs and alcohol, does a lot of very sketchy things that I wouldn't say mother should be doing, especially when she has a child. And for some reason, after listing all those facts, the court still has him, or is debating on who gets to keep the child. And I don't, again, I never really saw the mom side to it. It could just be a bunch of lies he told me. I'm not sure. But what I will say is that, yes, women really have a much higher chance of receiving child custody or receiving custody of the child in court.
Do you think that race could possibly play a role? Like, if the court had to choose between, like, a rich-looking white guy or like a black woman?
Yeah, probably. I mean, generally, I would say in the case like that, or if it's a rich white dude, then he'd probably win, I would think, just because that's, like, I think it's, like, not even subconscious, like, or no, I think it is subconscious that, like, systems, like, the stuff you see in the media growing up, and even the prosecutors would have seen movies growing up and stuff, they're gonna see, like, the people who are pushed in a good light as good.
Okay, so how about instead of even divorces, let's just look at our legal system overall.
Yeah.
Do you think it just favors, like, I don't know any other word I can use here, right? I'm sorry, but do you think it favors more female than male? Like, when we look at court cases and overall hearings and disputes between the two, do you think it favors one over the other more, just because of a gender?
No, to be honest.
No?
No, it's more like evidence. When it comes to evidences or witnesses, I don't think it's gender has to do something.
Or anything with gender?
Yeah, not
Okay.
when it comes to courts and cases.
But you think and we talked about jobs before, let's just take it back. Do you still think it's apparent in jobs and, like, careers and stuff like that?
Used to, but now I think it's changed. It comes to a better, agreement
Okay.
this time.
So do you think the pay gap between males and females is still evident? Do you think it's still there?
For some, yes, but right now, it is getting better. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But you still think it's there
Yeah.
between some of them?
Yeah.
Do you think that the media, like movies and stuff, has played a big role in making these sorts of stereotypes and social conformities?
Absolutely. I think that the media is probably the single, like, not just social media, just any form of media, is probably, like, the single biggest source for stereotypes and stuff. Like, you look at a movie, there's main character, rich white billionaire, he's running around, everyone loves him.
He's like Jack too, yeah.
Yeah, basically, and yeah, you got, like, another movie, your main character is, like, let me think. It's like a romance or something, like Titanic. Your main character is like a woman, and she's like living out her dream life there, and it's like generally the media portrays images. Like if you have a gag character in the background that's like of another like race, it puts the image in those people's heads that, hey, this race is funny. Like they make jokes and stuff, right? Like. And people grow up, like, sort of, if they see enough media, like, I wouldn't say you just see one movie and believe it, but if you see enough media where they're constantly putting, like, the same stuff over and over again, it subconsciously gets ingrained into your head.
Would be cases that involve sexual harassment or
Yes.
any of those other things,
Yes.
right, that we forgot to touch upon. And do you think if a male gets sexually harassed and is lucky enough and is strong enough and lucky enough to report it, do you think the court will still favor the female more and look down upon the male?
Dang. This is from my perspective.
Yeah, no, of course.
There will be some cases that will happen, but I do believe that men out there that get harassed will get justice.
You think so?
Yeah.
And then one more question. We see, especially in current day news, I personally see a lot of false allegations on rape between females to males now, right? And I had a question. Even when it let's say it's not even a false case.
Right.
Let's say we look at a case and we don't know what it is, right? Which is all of those cases, because everything is based on our opinions. We don't really know the true truth, right?
Yeah.
Now, do you think between a simple case where a female testifies against a male for sexual harassment, do you think, without any evidence or substance, the jury will lead toward the female than the male? Just based on natural history and how society plays out.
Honestly,
It's a tough one.
it's a tough one.
Yeah, nah.
It is a tough one. But you're talking about the society, right?
Yeah. Or
Then-
even you. Do you think personally, if you're there, you would lean towards the female more than the male?
Who's getting harassed though?
Yeah, she claims she got harassed. We don't know.
You don't know?
We don't know. She's claiming she got sexually harassed.
Dang, that's a tough one because I don't know. To me, I always believe the victim first.
But isn't that against our justice system? Because our justice
Yeah.
system says everyone's it says you're not guilty until proven. But then that's opposite against what you said, no?
Yeah, it's true. Like at first, I'm
Yeah.
not.
No,
like
no,
at
no.
first,
I understand.
because like, it is a hard situation.
Yeah.
Because I always say that I believe the victim first because once the truth is out, and even if the victim lied,
Yeah.
I feel more or less guilty for not believing the victim because I was once a victim.
No, I understand that, but you said a really interesting thing. Even if the victim is wrong, like made a false accusation, you'll still feel less bad than if it was the victim, right? But then at that point, the victim was the person that got accused, because the victim, quote, the first initial victim was a person that made the claim.
Yeah.
Now, if they made a false claim and you said, right, even if it was wrong, you'll still feel less guilty, right? But then thinking about that, now there's a new victim who got punished for something they did not even do. Wouldn't that make you feel guilty at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Even more so.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that
Yeah.
that if the person that gets falsely accused,
Yeah.
didn't get punished,
Okay.
that's when I meant.
Okay.
That's when I
No,
meant like I feel
of course.
less guilty. But
Okay.
if they're getting punished for something they didn't do, that's when I feel really
Yeah.
Bad.
It's a tough one.
It is a
Okay.
tough one.
We don't have anything else, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so
Pretty much out of time, so I mean, like, it was nice having you on. I'll see you around.
Okay.